But while we're waiting to start, let me ask you guys this question, because I came prepared to be able to cover a variety of topics when it comes to marketing. I've done marketing talks a lot. I feel like some of you have probably heard some before, some of you haven't. I don't know what everybody wants to learn. So I guess right now, if you're willing, if you have any marketing questions in mind that you are hoping to get answered today, like if you're just like, I've been wanting to talk about the multiple channel approach, or I want to talk about how to do marketing planning, or I want to talk about marketing stats, or whatever. Just if you have a question, I'd love to hear it now so I could try to make sure I get those answered for you today.
When it comes to marketing, like to drive people to your event, is it something that you send out in a monthly email, or is it a separate email for every event? Or?
Great question. So his question, and what's your name?
Bryson.
Bryson LeBurge, right?
Yep.
Just making sure. Just making sure. If you guys want to ask a question, feel free to give the rest of the room your name so you can start to be known if you're not already. So Bryson asked basically, if you're going to market to an event to try to drive attendance to that event, how do you market that? Like, are you just putting that in like a monthly content email? Are you doing something separate? All that kind of stuff. So we will definitely answer that question. Yes. Cookware drip. Cookware drip. What do you want to know about the cookware drip? Yes. I'm going to go ahead and answer this question right now just because I don't have that in my plan to talk about, and I don't want to forget. But I think Bryson's question will be answered based on other stuff I'm going to cover. So just really quick background for the rest of you guys. So I don't know if you know this about cookware. Cookware is probably the one product with Cutco that if people aren't really good at using it right away, sometimes they're like, I suck at this, I'm going to send it back, right? Like that's what we used to get calls from Josh's customers. They'd be like, I cannot make an egg in this pan. I'm going to send it back, right? And he'd be like, wait, don't send it back yet. I'm going to send you a video. It's going to show you how to do it. And then they'd watch the video and they'd try it and they'd be like, oh, I get it now. Okay, I'll keep it, right? So we created an 8-email cookware campaign. And the only difference between a campaign and just like a regular blast email, it's like usually you just create one email template and you just send it out to everybody, right? If you're doing content or a sale or whatever, essentially. But a cookware email campaign is actually a series of emails, like series of templates you create. And once you put someone on the campaign, it'll drip out to them, right? So they'll get the first email at whatever time, second email then when that time comes, third email. And you don't have to. So the answer is you don't have to go in and send all 8 emails. You just have to put them on that campaign, and however the intervals are set up in that campaign, might be like every week, every 2 weeks, whatever you want to set them up as you can, then they'll just get one every time that time frame comes up, right?
So do you do that after they buy, or do you?
Yes, we usually, that particular campaign is designed to be a cookware client campaign. Okay. You could use it for prospects, but if you did, you would want to tell them that. You would say, I'm going to send you what I send my customers when they do buy it, so it teaches them how to use it. It's just got more information in it, and they're, it's fine if you set it up that way. But generally, it's for buyers. Yeah. And the emails are great. And what was nice about it is, Josh would always have some cookware returns every year, but after he started using that campaign, for like the 3 years after he used it, I don't think he had a single return. He's had one return since then, but it had nothing to do with use. It had something to do with something else that came up in their life. They canceled it before it even got there. So, but generally, it's a very big help, yes. Welcome, by the way. Is there any other questions, by the way, that you guys, anybody in this room that's like, this is the marketing question I have that I'd love to get answered today? You can also ask questions later when we're done, but yes, LA.
I'm just curious, talking about like that campaign, do you think there will ever be a time where, you guys, we place the orders and you guys automatically upload to us? Do you think there'll ever be a point in time
Where it can just automatically go on the campaign if that order feeds in with cookware on it?
Yeah, like is
I
the cookware
know. That would be nice. I have actually asked my programmers we have to come up with a way to allow some automations, right? The programmers are super worried about it because they know as soon as they open that door, people are going to ask for like 1 million. I'm like, we can just limit it. Maybe give each person like 5 automations. We don't have that yet. I am always working on things like that, so I hope to have that someday. Right now, you either do it manually because you know they bought cookware, so you just go in and add them, or you can run queries based on items owned, right? And you could query like cookware item numbers and then put those people on the campaign too, which would also be pretty easy to do. But we generally use a tag. In Josh's system, it's like if they buy cookware, we give them a cookware buyer tag and we put them on that campaign right away. We like to have them labeled with a tag too, so if we want to do anything else in the future regarding cookware, like a new piece comes out and you want to be like, hey, you own cookware already, here's the new piece if you want to add it, right? We could pull people who just own cookware with that tag. Okay. So I'm going to get started with the message, but as we go, if you guys have other questions, they can come up for sure. Here's what to be honest with you, like I said, I wasn't really sure what direction you guys are all going to want to go with marketing, because everybody has different questions. There's a lot of variety we could talk about with marketing. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put up some slides that I'm not going to cover right now, just so you can take pictures of them. So if we don't have time to cover those things, you still have the information, okay? And if so, we'll come back to it. But what we did yesterday, because everybody kind of voted on it, was I just said, do you want to hear like these different topics? And everybody kind of voted on, let's hear the best practices of marketing in general, which is kind of a wide variety of things, really. So we'll do that. But let me go through these slides really quick and tell you what they are. And if you want to take pictures, and that way you'll at least have the information if we don't have time to come back to all of it. Of course, any of you can follow up with me in the future, too, if you have more questions still. This, by the way, I only put up because I reached out to all these guys. For Brandon and Josh, I actually have the stats because we do all the stats for them. But for everybody else, I had to just reach out and be like, hey, tell me your numbers from last year. I just wanted to be able to share with you guys some numbers. So when you're in this room going, is it worth it to be here right now? I could actually be out just eating more lunch or napping or whatever. If you get good at marketing and running your business well, and you get a lot of repeat business, and that's the goal, right? The whole point of marketing really is to get more sales from your current client list, right? As far as the purposes of this particular room. This is pretty exciting to see. Like, there might be some of you in the room who are thinking, it'd be really cool just to sell, $376,000 in a year total. But that is actually just his portion of repeat business. He sold $1 million last year, but 37% of his sales were to repeat clients, right? And look at Dawid and Josh and Robincheck, right? Robincheck did $1 million last year in just repeat orders to his current client list. That is awesome. Now, granted, Robincheck's example is more business gifts than anything. He does have residential. But Dawid and Josh, they both sold more than 70% of their sales last year were to their client list, and that is mostly residential, right? What if you guys could get your business to a point where every year you're doing 100,000, 500,000, $1 million just to your client list? Like, that would be amazing. Then you can do whatever you want, right? You don't even have to work any events at that point if you don't want to, because you could just get your sales to your current client list. And that's just up to you. Maybe someday when you're 80, you're like, I don't want to work events anymore. I just want to, call my customers, send out emails, get sales, all that stuff. Pretty exciting stuff. Okay. So marketing. If you go online, here are some definitions you can find. Marketing is the activities a company or individual undertakes to promote the buying of a product or service. Goals generally for most companies are client acquisition, client retention, repeat sales. The purpose is to get people interested in your services. Here's what I want to tell you guys about marketing. Number one, market, how it relates to your business. We generally market to our Cutco clients because we want three things. We want their attention, we want their awareness, and we want their action, right? So you want them to be paying attention to what you're sending out. You want them to be aware. Like right now, don't you want everybody to be aware there's blue shears available, right? So you want their awareness, and then you want them to take action, whether that's show up to your event, place an order, give you a referral, whatever, sign up for service, whatever it is, we want them to take action. So those are the main reasons that we do marketing. Second thing about marketing will not solve any problems in your business, okay? What I mean by that is if you're struggling in an area, let's say that you're not providing service, like you're so busy, people are asking you for service, you can't fit it in yet, so people feel like they're going without service even though they're asking for it. If that is a problem you have in your business, marketing is not going to solve that problem, okay? So marketing it's not like a Band-Aid. What marketing will do, though, is it will increase your your marketing effectiveness will be affected by how you run your business. It's like, and I see this because I've seen multiple reps send out the exact same email, even reps with similar sized client lists, and get very different results. And the reason they get very different results is because a lot of whether or not they're choosing to pay attention to you and what you're sending out, whether they choose to read it, take action, any of that stuff, that has a lot to do with how they feel about you already, right? So if you're kind of a jerk and you're not taking care of people and all that stuff, and you send out an email that's like, this is going on, they're not going to care, right? They're just not going to care. You actually have to still run a good business. And if you're running a good business, then the marketing is really great because it gets so much more response because they already like working with you, right? And the last thing I want to mention about marketing is because of that, some of the stuff I'm going to go through today, you might in your mind think I don't even know how this is in a marketing message. I don't know if this is marketing. That's up to you to choose. I'm going to cover with you guys some of the things that we do that make our marketing more effective, even though it may not be technically considered part of the marketing. Okay? But that's because I think it does make the marketing more effective. Me personally, I feel like any time you touch a customer, whether you're sending them a card, talking to them in person, sending them an email that they see, I think that's all marketing, right? Because it's all related to your business. So that's my personal opinion. So that's why I'm going to cover a bunch of variety of things. Okay, so first one you might want to take a picture of. These are all parts of your strategy. This right here, your value proposition. Now, you guys all know Cutco's value proposition, right? So you could tell somebody why Cutco is worth the value, why the value of Cutco is there, so they should buy Cutco. This is not that. This is why should they work with you, right? What is your value proposition? Why you versus another rep? Why you versus Costco? Why you versus the Cutco store? Why you versus Cutco corporate? Like, why should they buy from you? You need to know this, because if you can answer why you think people should work with you, then that will help inform the messaging that you'll use in your marketing, okay? And the way you treat people in general, so that they also understand that. Your brand message is kind of like, what's your brand about? Everybody's different. Does anybody in this room know Carlton Thompson? How many of you know who Carlton Thompson is? Okay, I have to tell you, like, people come up to the booth, so Josh and Carlton will work together sometimes, right? Because they have customers in the same areas. And people will come up to the booth and they'll, like, Carlton's customers will come up to the booth and they'll talk to Josh, like if Carlton's not there that day, right? Josh is helping them because ROR is super strong in TGP. They all support each other. They sell for each other. It's no big deal. It's awesome. Anyway, but Carlton's customers will say to Josh, "You're just not as fun as Carlton," right? That's what they say. And he's like, "Yeah, I know." Like, many of us aren't, by the way. Carlton, that is part of Carlton's brand. Like, customers love that he's fun and upbeat and all that stuff. And not that Josh isn't fun. Yeah, I think Josh is fun. But, you know, he's not Carlton. So that's part of Carlton's brand, not Josh's brand. But you have to decide for yourself, what do you want customers to think about you, right? What do you want your brand to be? Data on customers. This is really important. I know a lot of people don't even think about this, but I'm going to cover why later, but the more data you have on your clients, the more effective you can make your marketing, okay? So I know a lot of people, how many of you, by the way, are already in Fast Action CRM? A lot of you, right? But the question, and you don't have to answer this with your hands, but if I said to you, how many of you are actually going into your CRM regularly and like adding notes about clients and all that kind of stuff, it might be a lot fewer hands. I'm not going to make you do that, but I'm telling you, like, people underestimate the power of that all the time. Okay, they just want it for the email platform, but they don't understand how important and how useful the database can actually be. Okay, and the last thing is your goals and your calendar. So once you have all these 4 things in mind, what your value proposition is, what your brand message is, data on customers, and your goals and calendar, it's really easy to create a marketing strategy. Okay, take a picture of this multi-channel approach. Here's the reasons you want a multi-channel approach. This means you're sending out emails, texts, direct mail, calls and voicemails, and using social media if you want to. These are the 4 reasons. Some clients have preferences, right? Some clients will open emails, but they don't want a text from you. Some clients love text. They'll never touch an email. Some clients, we have a client who told us, you can text me, you can email me, you can call me, you can do any of that stuff. Just do not mail me anything because I love trees. I don't want any paper in my mailbox, right? People have preferences. And some people, by the way, love getting mail because some people don't get any mail. So like when they get mail, it's a big deal. So everybody has a preference, first of all. Second reason is you don't have everything for everybody, right? Some people you have emails for, but not a mobile number. Some people you have an address for, but not an email. If you're not using multiple channels, you're not reaching everybody, okay? I think you need to at least do 1 direct mail piece a year that if it doesn't go to everybody, goes at least to everybody who you do not have a text number for or a working email for. Because otherwise, they're getting nothing from you, right? You should be calling them probably too, but... Also, each one has their own strengths, so each different type of marketing you can do different things with. And traditionally, in marketing and advertising, the more you can touch one person. So like when Josh has customers come up to him at the booth and go, "You have one of the best marketing strategies I've ever seen. I got your email, I got your text, I got your postcard." There's like, of course I knew about this. I got everything, right? So sometimes just having that multi-touch with one person is what actually gets them to take action, okay? That's traditionally how it's been in advertising. Okay, take a picture of this. I'm not going to cover it right now. Sorry, but we'll come back to it if we have time. These are kind of like general stats. I will just say, if you go online and look, these are general stats and conversion rates for different types of marketing so that you can go back and do your numbers. So like when you're going, I'm going to do a service event in this area. I have this many people in that area. If I'm going to send these things, these are typical percentages of conversion rates I could get. So I should expect to get at least this many appointments set up or however you want to look at that. But these are just different conversion rates. I'm not going to cover it in detail right now, but we can come back to it later, okay? And then this, take a picture of this. I'm going to skip over it too. These are the most common reasons Cutco reps do marketing. So content and value-added emails, the only thing I'm going to say about that is the reason you have to send value to people is because if you don't, then they'll stop paying attention. If you don't have their attention, it's really hard for them to be aware of anything or to take action. So the first most important step is keep their attention. They have to want to look at your emails or want to receive your text messages, that kind of stuff. And the only way you're going to get people to want to do that is if you're not trying to sell something every time you reach out. If you're trying to sell something every single time you reach out, they eventually tune out because they're like, I don't need Cutco right now. Delete. I don't need Cutco right now. Delete. Okay? But if you're sending enough value to them that they like, that they find useful without asking for anything back, then when you do send those other emails, whether it's an event invite or a sale offer or service, appointment setup thing, then they're more likely to actually see it and take action. So you do have to send value. And I gave this message yesterday, and then one of the girls in the talk actually asked me afterwards, she was like, what are all the different ways you guys can add value? And so I'm just going to share this because I texted her the answer because I had to think about it for a minute. But here are some basic ones, right? So monthly value-added content emails. So a lot of people are on the Vast Action content email program, and even if you're not, that's fine. But you should regularly be sending some sort of value email that's like, hey, this cool recipe I thought you might like, or hey, here's a guide on how to sharpen your knives, or how to keep your knives sharp, or how to cut a pineapple, or whatever it is, right? But value. We also do an annual courtesy call. Josh mentioned that earlier today, I think, in his talk. But where we just reach out, and the whole point, again, if you want them to answer the phone when you call, right, then you have to call sometimes with not being calling about sales. Okay, so when we do the courtesy call, we try to courtesy call everybody at least once a year. We've done that for decades. And when we do that, the call is just basically two things. It's one, how's your Cutco doing? What's like build rapport normally, right? How's your Cutco doing? Like, does it need sharpening, repair, anything like that? That really helps you get more service calls lined up. And two is, let's get your account up to date. It's like, is this the right email for you still? Is this your mobile number? Is this the best address, right? All that stuff. Should there be another person's name on the account? Can I get a secondary phone number? Whatever you're asking. But that's the reason. And then you just express appreciation, right? So courtesy call. Third thing is service offers. When you're offering free sharpening on a regular basis, that is also value added. Also, we do drawings and giveaways to give back to clients regularly. Every single year, we're giving away Cutco. We're always doing drawing videos, sending it out to our clients, and then we send out the winners, get the stuff. But we do a lot of drawings and giveaways. Gold client and top client gifts and appreciation gifts, handwritten cards, all that stuff. We do those. We also do tracking of their gifts. That's stellar. Josh does that. So he, again, today, earlier, if you were in the talk, he talked about selling gifts and how important that is, always promoting that. The other thing he does that's really great is once he realized that after people bought gifts a few times and then they'd call back and be like, I want to buy more, but I have no idea what I gave them last time, right? They don't keep track. So he keeps track. That's one of his value adds. He's like, every time we do anything, I'm going to take notes for you and keep track for you. So now people call him every year for like holiday gifts. And they'll be like, cool, Josh, what did I get them last time? What do they have now? What do they have now? What should they get next? Okay, good, right? So he keeps track of it for them. Stuff like that, wish list and all that good stuff. And then we also do all the small touches, birthday emails, birthday cards, anniversary emails, all the other greeting cards, congratulations cards, get well cards, sympathy cards, all that stuff. We also send appreciation in every single message we send out. I'm gonna talk about that. All that stuff is value added, okay? So these are all the different reasons and ways that people market in Cutco. Okay, marketing planning, take that picture. We're gonna pass right through this too, unless we have time to come back. This is the order. These are all the things that need to go in your calendar, this and more. And then once you have all these in your calendars, you take each one of those things, like the Cutco events, the sales you're gonna do, service, all that stuff, and you do all of these for each one. How many past customers do you have in the area? What channels are you gonna use to market for it? What are you gonna promote? Who are the recipients gonna be? What's the send date gonna be? Do your calendar checkpoints. That's like, this needs to go out this date, I need to have it ready by this date kind of stuff. And then are you gonna do it yourself or have a vendor do it for you? And then just know that if you're doing like a sale, for example, I would say that your calendar is not complete when you're planning a sale unless you also have in your calendar the times you're gonna do follow-up for that sale, okay? So if you're planning a sale, like I'm gonna do my spring sale in March or April, there has to be times in your calendar where you're like, I'm either gonna handle the calls at that time, like 2 to 4 hours a day, whatever it is. I'm gonna actually be answering phones or returning calls. People got, texted me or emailed me or whatever. And then also it would be ideal to just do some outreach. Start with the top of your list, work your way down. So like when we got to a point where Josh couldn't call all the catalog people anymore because it was just so many people, it's like he calls his top of the list, right? His gold clients, and then now everybody else gets voice drops. We can talk about that later too. But the point is you still have to have follow-up in your calendar. And then also CRM updates after. Every single thing you do. Like you do a service event. What should you do with your CRM after a service event? You should go in and mark every single person who showed up with the last service date, so that the next time you send out a service invite, you can exclude the people who already had service in the last year or so, right? And invite the people who haven't had service yet. You can't do those kind of things if you don't mark their account with when they had service last, okay? So there should be time in your calendar too to update your CRM after you do things, okay? And it'd be really good if you could all start having a savings account for marketing. It's an important investment in your business. So if finances is like an issue sometimes, then try to get in the habit of just putting so much away every so often, right? Every month, every week, whatever, into a marketing account that you can then use for your business. This is an example of how some people do it visually. Like they'll lay out the year and then they'll put everything in. Like I'm doing an event in this month, an event that month. I'm gonna do my sales those months. I put some of the popular stuff in here. Fall catalogs usually happen September, October. Spring sales often happen in April and March. Summer sales usually happen in July or August or June because of SC1s, SC2s. And then obviously price increase promos go out in January because that happens almost every February now. Winter sales usually happen in December. So these are just examples. But usually what happens is you put in your calendar and then you go through each thing and you plan the marketing around each thing, okay? That's just a really, really simple example. Not very detailed, but just wanted to give you a visual example of it. Okay, now on to the actual message. Does anybody have questions so far? Oh my gosh, lots of questions. What's your question? Sarah, yeah, sorry.
Courtesy calls.
Yes.
I'm guessing Josh has a team for them, but for the rest of us, a couple hours of an assistant. How much time would you devote to them? When is the best time of the year to do that?
Here's my answer. I don't think there's any best time of year. I think you can do it anytime. If it were me, I would suggest that whether it's you or you're having an assistant do it, that you just have a consistent schedule of like, hey, let's make 20 calls a day. Even if it was only 20 calls a day all year long, any day that they have time. Like if there's a day where they're busy doing something else, they can't get them in, then fine. But the goal is let's do 20 courtesy calls a day or whatever it is, and we just do it all year long. So we always just did them all year long, so we have so many clients that we had to, right, just do them all the time. But depending on when you're doing them, then the courtesy call can also be follow-up for other things. So if you're doing them in the fall and you've sent catalogs, then that's where a lot of times too it kind of morphs into the courtesy call is normal, right? I still ask about service. I still ask about their account updates. But then before I get off the phone, I go, hey, by the way, I also did send you a catalog recently. Did you happen to get that? And you kind of start that conversation. So you don't have to necessarily hardcore sell, but you're still finding out, like a marketing follow-up call. So if there's things going on that time, you can ask that as well, right? As far as the numbers you guys should think about, when we have assistants doing it, generally our assistants average about 20 calls an hour, just so you know, because they're not going to get a hold of everybody all the time. So it's like the times they get a hold of a lot more people, it's less calls per hour because they're having conversations. The times they don't get a lot of people, it's more calls per hour because they're not having as many conversations. We do leave voicemails if we don't get a hold of somebody. But that's what you're kind of shooting for. So if you have an assistant, they should be doing around 20 calls an hour if they're being productive. If you're getting an assistant that's like, oh, I made 8 calls all 5 hours, like 8 calls an hour, you need to work with that person on efficiency, right? Because that's a little slow. But that's what you can so if you go, my client list is 500 people, whatever it is, let's say we do 20 calls an hour, I want to call everybody, you just do the math, right? 500 people, 20 calls an hour, how many calls is that? Or how many hours of calls? Is that 25? Okay. I'm not doing the math in my head right now, but if it was 25 hours, now you go, cool, when are we going to do those? Right? Am I going to do 1 hour a day for so many days? You could put them in times where once you get the calendar filled out, the thing that's nice about the visual calendar is you can kind of see then where the holes are. So if you're like, I'm doing events here, 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 I'm doing like my trips here, 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 I've got training things here, 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 I'm doing service here, 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 I'm doing my sales here, 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 right? Whatever it is, then you'll see where the holes are in your calendar. That's where you could go like, okay, I'm either going to do a referral promo at that time because I need to fill some holes, or I'm going to do some business gift stuff at that time, or I'm going to do my courtesy calls at that time. Like whatever it is, but you can fill it in anywhere it fits. Doesn't matter when you do it. Just so you guys know, there is no best time for any marketing. People ask that all the time. Like people would call the office and they'd be like, I want to do a sale. When do you want to do it? Whenever Josh is doing his. So we get all the time. And I'm like, that's cool. We can do that. I was like, but just so you know, he doesn't do it because it's the best time to do it. He does it because that's when it fits in his schedule. You should do it when it fits in your schedule, right? When you have the time for follow-up and all that stuff, and when it's filling time that you don't have to be working an event or doing something else. So it's more about what's right for you than what's right for marketing. Question?
Yeah, so you're talking about in the CRM updates, is there a tab or a tag that it's like just a couple of status in case someone has a
So he's asking, is there something you do in the CRM to denote people who do need service or have a broken product or something? So the way we do it is anyone who asks for service, no matter how they ask, whether it's a lead at a show, whether it's a past customer that reaches out, whether it's, I don't know what else it would be. Those two things are mainly things. But we go in and mark their account right away with a tag that just says service request. So that is anytime we're doing service in that area, we can pull a list in that area. And then we also make a history note of what they told us. Like, this is what's broken or whatever is going on, so that we know what's happening with that customer when we schedule them. Is that what you meant?
Like going that route, I was saying like, is there a way to schedule a call? Like say if you schedule them like last year.
Mhm.
Is there like a 6-month call or an 8-month call just to check for stats in case they
Absolutely.
broken in the meantime?
In fact, one of the things that Josh's assistants do for him, because he thinks it's really important, is whether they come to a service event or whether he helps them mail stuff off from home or whatever the case may be, we always set tasks to follow up with that person in like 3 or 4 weeks just to make sure they got everything back, everything looks good, they're feeling good about it, whatever. So yeah, if you're in the CRM and you're not using tasks yet or upcoming events, it's at the bottom of a contact page, you can set a task. So we do that all the time. If a customer says to Josh, like, hey, I'm buying now, but can you call me back in August because I have a family wedding coming up in November. I definitely want to get a gift, but I'd rather talk about it then or whatever. We set a task immediately in August to call that person so that when that task pops up, Josh will get it. And just so you know, if you're not logging into the CRM and you're setting tasks, it will still email you every day and let you know what tasks are due so that you don't miss them. Okay, which is really great. Okay, I'm going to run through best practices. Best practices. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to run through and this, by the way, I actually just sat down in my brain and like made a whole list of all the best practices I see Cutco distributors using in marketing. They're like not in a particular order. They're just kind of all over the place. So we're just going to go through this and you guys can stop me if you have questions, okay? First things first. Because I'm not just coming at you with experience from Cutco, I've been with Cutco for a very long time. I've been doing marketing for a very long time. Marketing is my degree, by the way, if that matters to you at all, from college. But I also have been through multiple marketing seminars outside of Cutco. I'm trying to always make sure I keep up on what's going on and try to help bring you guys whatever I can bring you to help you guys out. So this is actually not something I learned at Cutco. This is something I learned in marketing in general from people in the country who are like the top email marketers in the country, right? Like stuff like that. So the general thing you have to know, which I mentioned earlier, is value, value, value offer. That's usually the plan. Like you should not ever be sending out something to a customer saying like, hey, do you want to buy Cutco? Unless you've sent them value first. Like generally, most email marketers who are really good at this stuff, they do at least 3 values before they'll ever send out an offer. At least. Which is why most reps are on a monthly value content email plan because most reps do 3 sales a year, a spring, a summer, and a winter sale, right? And so if they're doing value in January, value in February, value in March, sale in April, value in May, value in June, right? But they're doing all 12 months. So it doesn't have to lay out exactly like that, but if you're always sending value every single month, then if you're doing sales a few times a year, it's gonna work out, right? As far as the ratio. If you wanted to send a sale every single month, you could, but then you should be sending 3 values the 3 weeks of the month you're not doing the sale, right? Like that's the ratio. So value, value, value offer. And we talked a minute ago about different ways you could provide value. Second thing is one purpose per piece. This kind of answers the question I got earlier from this area. Bryson, right? Yes. So the best practice is one purpose per marketing piece. So what that means is, yes, if you have a content email, and you guys know that are on our system, because we do send out content for you every month, and we're putting in the monthly like offer that Cutco's offering for 75th anniversary this year and every single one of those. Even though that's not like for Blue Shears, for example, because Curtis mentioned we sent an email for him yesterday or whatever, and he got a bunch of sales. It was the Blue Shears email, but it was a specific Blue Shears email. It wasn't like a bunch of stuff in an email the Blue Shears just happened to be in also. Generally, you get the best results by sending one email or one text or one mail piece or whatever for that one purpose. So don't send an email that's like, if you want service, do this. If you want to buy stuff, do this. If you want value, go here. If you want to like go to my events, here's my event list. Like you can do that. But generally, you don't get the results from that like you get if you just send out like I'm going to be at this event, here's the stuff. Or I'm running this sale, here's the offers. Or I'm offering service, sign up here. Okay? So one purpose per piece is really what works best, and also one clear call to action. That's why. So whether you're saying click here to set up your service appointment, or reply to this email to let me know you want me to call you to get the service call scheduled, or click here to view the special prices going on right now, or whatever it is, a clear call to action per piece, okay? Always test before sending to the group. Send yourself a test email, because I cannot tell you how many times, and I've made the mistake too. I get complacent and comfortable, and I'm like, I've sent emails a million times. It's like the one time you don't test it is the time like the name merge doesn't work. And so everybody gets an email that says, hey, first name. And you're like, dang it, right? Or the layout's not right, or you didn't catch some spelling errors, or one of the links isn't working right. So test your email first just to be safe. It's okay if you make those mistakes. We all do. But it's not ideal, but it's not going to break your business either if you happen to send out a hey first name email. On longer promos, so whatever it is, if you're working an event, so you can work events that are 1 day, you're working events that are 3 days, right? If you're working an event that's longer, 7 days, 10 days, 2 weeks, whatever it is, or if you're running a sale that's longer, 10 days, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, heck, in December, most people run sales for the whole month, basically, right, of December. If that's the case, you want to send out more than one thing. So like if you're sending out an email for a 3-week sale, you need to do a launch email, a reminder email, a last chance email, generally around an email a week, right? You guys should know when you send out those sale emails, launch reminder, last chance, or launch reminder, last chance, or launch reminder, last chance, because some people run really long. You generally get the biggest pop on your last ones, right? Josh could tell you that. It's funny, but you can't skip the first ones. The first ones are what help make the last ones, right? People, I think, just tend to procrastinate. So like, oh, I got to buy Cuggo. Oh yeah, 2 days left. I really got to do it now. So we get the most pop on our reminders. But even on events, we'll send out an email before the event starts. We'll send out an email. If it's like a 10-day event, we'll send out an email again before like the last weekend. If it's longer, then we send out multiple emails, right? But you got to keep reminding people. So more than one send on longer promos. Multi-channel approach, we talked about that on the other slide. So get multiple pieces of contact info if you can, and then use multiple channels. I know it costs more to do that. You don't have to do it for everything, but at least for your big things, you should be using multiple channels. Email, text, calls, voicemails, direct mail, social, whatever you're using. Use multiple channels. Okay? Be intentional. That just means like once you decide what your brand is, then just make sure your marketing is in alignment with that, right? And consistency in 2 areas. You need to be consistent both in frequency. So are you sending monthly emails, weekly emails? What are you doing? Just keep it consistent. By the way, you guys probably all know this about social media. But if you're going to use social media at all for business, unless you're being uber consistent with it, you might as well not do it at all, right? Which I actually have a conversation with Champions where I interviewed the social media manager person in Olean who does all of Cutco's. So that'll be coming out soon. So you can listen to what she has to say. But I tell you, part of what she said is you have to do it all the time. Like you have to do it every day. It has to be real consistent. So otherwise, you're not going to get a lot of results from it. But in general, like text, emails, whatever, it should be consistent, the frequency. And then also in the message, especially FAQs. I think it's really good to have some templates in your system to answer the common questions that come up. Some common questions we've gotten are things like, how do I fry an egg in my cookware? Or how do I get this lid off my cookware? Right? You guys ever get that? My lid's stuck. Or things like, how do I send my Cutco back for sharpening? Or I got the wrong color. How do I exchange it? We have what we call customer service templates, which are for all those things. So that when someone asks a question, we can just fire off that template to them and it answers that specific question. Because it should be easy and efficient for you, it should also be consistent and the same every single time. If you have to retype it every time, if you have multiple assistants working for you and they each type it differently every time, that's not ideal. You want it to be the same. Have you guys ever asked somebody questions before and gotten different answers to the same questions? How's that make you feel about that person? Sometimes you're like, oh, do they know what they're doing? I don't know what's going on here. Why do I get a different answer every time I ask the same question? So it should be the same every time, okay? So that should also be consistent. That really helps. Okay, next thing is marketing planning. It is good to do marketing planning rather than doing it last minute. I know I had that slide up earlier. You should actually, whether you're going to do it each campaign, every year, most reps do this because they just don't want to think about it that often, right? They're like, I just want to sit down one time, make my whole annual plan. They give it to us, and then we just execute that plan all year long, and they don't even think about it again. It's great. They love it. You can do that for yourself, even if we're not doing it for you. But you should have a plan. It always works out better if you plan it ahead versus doing it last minute. Subject lines matter. Email open rates are really mostly about the subject line in addition to about their relationship with you, right? Whether they want to hear from you or not. But I love cleverness. I have to tell you, I love it. I love puns. I love plays on words. I love all that stuff. But that is not as important in a subject line as clarity, right? They want to know what's in that email. It's all over. If you do any research on your own, you'll see everywhere it says The subject line needs to be clear. They need to know what is happening in that email. So just clarity. Get them to interact with your emails. Ooh, if you don't know this, okay, a couple things. One is stuff's always changing online, always, right? There was something that came out February 1st by Google, changed a lot of stuff. Even our programmers are like, we don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to be ready on February 1st in case everything breaks down so we can try to fix it, right? Stuff's always changing. We're always having to try to adapt. That's not going to change probably. The other thing is all the email service providers, they're called ESPs, Google, like Gmail, Hotmail, whatever, all that stuff. They all have their own algorithms and they all have their own bots. This is like the most annoying thing. So what that means is, one thing is they have bots now that are trying to be anti-spam. So you'll send an email out and the bot will click on your links because the bot wants to see if it takes it somewhere dangerous or not, okay? But you know what it shows in your email stats as? A click, right? So sometimes you'll call your customer and be like, oh, you don't ever want to say I saw you clicked. But there actually are buttons that say like, if you want me to follow up, click here, right? So you could easily call that customer and say, I saw that you clicked on my you want follow-up button. Sometimes they're like, no, I didn't, right? You're like, dang it. Just know we can't change that. There's no way for us to change that. So just know that clicks are not always 100% right. However, not opens are basically 100% right? So there's still value in it. And some people still might have clicked. I just suggest that you actually still make the call. You just don't say, I see you clicked. You just start it like a courtesy call. Hey, Benji, it's Amy, your Coco girl. How's it going? Cool. You know, you kind of talk, and then you go, hey, did you happen to see the email I sent out? Because then he's either going to go, oh, yeah, whatever. Like, I was wanting to talk to you. Or he's going to be like, oh, no, whatever. And you're like, okay, no problem. Right? No big deal. You can still call clicks. They're just not going to all actually be clicks. Okay? That part sucks. Sorry for that. But the reason I say this is because all their algorithms, they give you a sender reputation rating, is what they call it. And so if you can get them to interact with your email, then their email service provider sees that that person's interacting with your email, and it increases your reputation as a sender, okay? The same way that if you're constantly sending out emails to a bunch of people who really don't care about you at all, like say you're talking to prospects. This comes up more with the CGCs because they get the prospects, they put them in their CRM, they start emailing them, right? But sometimes years go by and that person never replies or never does anything. That actually lessens your reputation to send out all those emails and never get responses, okay? It's better to keep your list a little bit cleaner than that. I think clients are fine until they tell you not to email them, but I think prospects, you should probably give them a timeline, right? But the point is get them to interact. So that's why sometimes we'll even ask questions in our content that are just like, hey, reply with your birthday. Hey, reply with your favorite jarred food. We did that one time. People love that question. I don't know why. Like pickles. Hey, reply with your, we've done like, reply with your favorite way to eat corn. We're taking a corn poll. We do so many weird things. We've done like reply with your favorite joke, reply with your, the next thing you'd want to put on your wish list, like whatever it is, it doesn't matter. The only reason we do that is to get them to reply. And oftentimes we attach it to a drawing. Reply with your favorite joke and you'll go into a drawing for a free whatever. And all they do is reply and tell us, I'm like, cool, haha, very funny, we loved it, thanks. But it's just to get the interaction. That's all it is, okay? So sometimes it's good to do that. Plus, if you ask them for their birthdays, by the way, you can put the birthdays in the CRM. You can set up a trigger where it actually emails them a birthday email on their birthday, which is great. And it also emails you to tell you they sent that email to that person on their birthday. So that in case you run into them like an event, they're like, oh, thanks for the email, Robert. And you're like, what email? My birthday. So, okay, prepare customers. This is really important. If you want your marketing to be really effective, then you need to prepare your customers. So Josh teaches what's called the famous let go. I don't have it completely memorized, but here's what I can tell you, and we can ask Josh to do it if we need to. Essentially, after you're done talking to the person, wherever you're at, on the phone, at the booth, in person, whatever, once you've figured out what they're buying or not, or whatever, usually buying, right? Then you just always have the same like wrap-up message, which is something along the lines of appreciation, thank you again, reaffirming their decision to purchase, right? You made the right choice kind of thing. And then also set the expectations for what's going to happen moving forward. So you could be like, so Michael, just so you know, I'm going to keep in touch with you. I'm your Cutco person now, so you can reach out to me anytime you need help. I'm going to send you a monthly email that's really just like training, got user guides. So how to cut certain things, certain recipes that are really cool, whatever. Just so that you get the most out of your Cutco. We want you to know how to use it. We want you to feel good about it. We want you to get the most out of your investment, right? Once in a while, a few times a year, there's probably a sale going on. I'll let you know. In case you want to add on, you'll know when the best prices are happening. Also, if I'm in your area for free sharpening, I'm going to let you know that too. So anytime you need sharpening, you can let me know, right? So we're going to interact. I'm going to probably email you, but I'm also going to text you once in a while when I'm coming in for service and things like that. So you just kind of let them know, right, what to expect. That's really helpful. You get a lot less like opt-outs or people ignoring you when they know what to expect. And I can tell you this for sure. Most CSPs that work with this stuff, marketing, CRM, all that stuff, the thing I hear the most is, I wish I had started sooner, right? Because what's funny is, and they've mentioned this in a couple other messages, but you do train your customers, right? The more you interact with them and the way you interact with them, you start to train them. You can train them on different things. You can train them on how they expect, like Brian said this earlier in the $1 Million Breakout. He was like, it's so funny because we do have such a strong ROR culture in TGP. And so we're always working with each other customers. And he's like, it's very clear on our team which reps are very piece focused and which reps are very package focused. Because when their customers come up to work with a different rep, their customers are already in that mindset, right? And you can tell by the way the rep works with people. So you can train your customers whether to think pieces or to think packages. You can train your customers whether to expect prices to be normal unless there's a sale. If you're always giving them sale prices no matter what's going on, then they don't have any reason ever to respond to you when you're running a sale because it's always a sale, right? So you train people on that kind of stuff. So when you train people, like from the beginning, when they come into you as a new customer and immediately they start getting communication from you, here's my contact info to save so you can get a hold of me anytime. Here's this, if it's cookware, like here's the cookware information to help you out or whatever, sending out content, then they get used to that. So all of us that have been here forever, before we had emails and all that, and before we started doing all this stuff, so many of our clients from all time ago are just like inactive now, right? We either lost information for them, they don't respond to anything or whatever, even knows if the email works. The point is, because they weren't started from that program. But if you start them on that program, it's just normal, right? And then it's really cool because then they're more interactive and more engaged, which is really great. So you train them whether you're doing rock bottom prices all the time or whether you're going to use regular prices with a little bonus like Seth talked about. You can be more profitable. Just think about if you're a rep right now, you feel like you always give away the kitchen sink, which was me, by the way, as a rep. I was just like, sure, buy the homemaker. I'm going to max out my points for you. I don't know why I did that. I just felt like I should do that, right? But like, think about if you do that right now, if you just kept 100 extra points on every order, what that would add up to over the course of a year. It could be so much more profit for you. And Cutco is awesome at full price. Had this right. You do not have to rock bottom prices out to sell Cutco. So you can do that on sales. So Josh sold 40 grand over Black Friday this year, by the way, when he was selling his million. Because it was the first time, he doesn't usually do Black Friday sales. Because he's usually doing catalog in November and then his email sale in December, and we just don't do Black Friday because you're competing with everything else in the world that's doing Black Friday. It's fine. Everybody's got their own opinion. But this year he did one thing that he doesn't usually do, which is he did a Black Friday special for that weekend. And what he did was he sent out the catalog prices. It's an email that's pretty popular. Actually, a lot of people buy it from us in the fall. So we create an email. Usually it has all the it's usually this price, but now it's this price, usually this price, and now it's this price, and it's all the catalog prices. He doesn't usually even give people catalog prices. But this year, he was really driving that stuff, right? He sold 40 grand by making calls from 9 a.m., 7 a.m. in Vegas time to basically 5 p.m. Vegas time over the course of the weekend, both days, just from that email, right? How cool is that? 40 grand over a weekend just on email and phone? Pretty sweet. But that's because it was so special. His clients are so used to not getting that kind of pricing that when that came up, they were like, oh, I'm buying now, right? Got to do this now. Josh never gives me these prices. Okay, it's what you train people on. If you want it to be special, you got to make it special. Okay, how you provide service or whether you don't, like that. There's some things you have to retrain people on when you get to certain points in your business. So, Josh was one of the reps too, like most of us, that started off saying, you're going to buy Cutco, and then anytime you need it sharpened, I'm going to come over here and sharpen it for you for free, essentially, right? I'm going to come to your house anytime you need it, sharpen your Cutco. And then you get to a point where you have 10,000 clients, and you're like, I cannot get to everybody's house that needs Cutco sharpened. So that's why this service event program was created, which is really great. You can get a lot more people sharpened in a much shorter time. But he had to retrain his customers, right? Because he had so many customers who were like, hey, you said you'd come anytime. And he's like, I know, I'm sorry, things change, right? Like, I just have too many customers. So he still sees his gold clients as service calls, and he'll make exceptions once in a while too, but generally it's service events for Josh's client list size, okay? Okay, next thing is get your contacts saved in their phone. This is so important. This is more important now than it's ever been. When you're with somebody, whether it's at the booth, wherever, get them to save your contact in their phone immediately, okay? Because what's happening now is there are even phones and phone plans being sold where it automatically blocks any number that's unknown, okay? You're not going to get through their phone at all if you're not in their phone. So get yourself in their phone so that any text you send, any voicemail you send, like voicemail drops, that they see that it's from you, right? Again, if they like you, they're used to you reaching out, you're not always talking about sales, that kind of stuff, then they'll still be cool with you reaching out to them, okay? But you got to be in their phone. That's really helpful. Question? Man.
Save your personal phone and your texting-based phone number, or just one?
I think most people do, yeah. And I think Josh does too. So yes, if you're using a texting number from a system, then usually have them save both. I think Josh probably has them save his email, his phone number, and his texting-based number. Yeah. Okay. Respond quickly. So this is kind of one of those things where, like, people used to be a little bit more understanding, and I feel like the more we get into this, like, instant gratification world, like Prime, I can buy something right now online, and it can show up tomorrow. Love it, right? The problem is that's actually training people to expect things very quickly these days. And so when they reach out to you, you really should at least try to reach back out to them within 24 hours, even if only to say, hey, like, I'm on vacation, but I will definitely get back to you in a few days, or whatever it is, right? Let them know you'll get back to them about it, but definitely get back to them about it. At least let them know that, right? It really helps. Track customer preferences. So this is where, again, with the marketing, you're going to have some people who say, don't email me. Anything else is fine. Or don't mail me. Anything else is fine. Or whatever. We have tags in our CRM. They start with do nots. I like things starting the same so they all group together. So like it says, do not, we have tags that say do not email, do not contact, do not call, do not voice drop, do not text, do not mail, right? We have all those tags so that anybody that says, send me as many emails as you want, Patrick, but I'd prefer you didn't text me, right? That we can do a do not text. And if you didn't know this about the CRM, you can also do saved queries. So in Josh's system, because he has so many people, so much variety, so much of that stuff, that we have saved queries where we go, okay, Josh wants to send a text out to invite for this event or whatever. We open that saved query of the base for texting, and it'll automatically pop up like 8 rows that are like, they're not inactive. They don't have the tag do not text. They, it's like all this thing. They have the mile radius of this, so that you don't have to necessarily build it every time. But you don't have to remember all that stuff. You just have to create those queries so that it remembers it for you, right? But track your customers' preferences. By the way, Josh could tell you this, but if you ask a customer every time you see him whether or not they're interested in looking at cookware, and every time you talk to them, they go, I have Lifetime. I've had it forever. I love it. I love Cutco too, but I'm just not interested in cookware ever. If you keep asking them every time you see them whether or not they want to look at cookware again, they're eventually going to be like, dude, do you even pay attention? I said I don't want cookware. And they just notice, by the way. That comes up with me too. I have a Honda, and I took it in this week, and I had 3 conversations in one day with 3 different people at Honda where I had to repeat myself again and again and again because she was like, I'm taking notes. And then the next person I talked to, he's like, I don't see any notes. And I'm like, oh my God, do you guys have a CRM? Like, what is happening over there? Right? They ask me the same questions over and over, and it drives me nuts. It feels like very poor customer service. Okay, that's how I feel about it. So I think customers feel the same way. So please take notes so that you can review the notes, pick up the conversation where you left off, and not ask them the same question again and again and again. Okay? And then if you want to do high-level stats, most people don't do this. Brandon Brown does this, Josh does this, but we track their stats. So on Josh, we have a spreadsheet, which I could pull up and show you if I can get online, but we have a spreadsheet where we track every single order, and then we have this whole sheet where we track, is it past customer or new? Is it residential, realtor, or business? Is it a booth order, a phone order, a web order, like what kind of order it is, and then what marketing drove it. But the only way you can keep those stats is if you're asking that question. So Josh, every order he takes, he has that conversation with the customer of like, how did you hear about this or whatever it is? So it's like, I got your postcard, or I got your letter, or I got the email, or I got the text, or whatever it is, and then he can attribute it to that, and now we can go back and look and see how effective different marketing pieces are being. That's really high level. You don't necessarily have to do that, but if you're an information person like me, I'm a data head, then that kind of stuff's cool. Okay, this, by the way, is probably one of the most popular things right now going on in marketing, in email marketing especially. If you look outside of Cutco even, they're all talking about this. if you can personalize stuff, as much as you can personalize stuff, the marketing is more effective, okay? So I'm gonna go through a list of different ideas about personalizing, but this is where, and I think part of why this is coming up is because everything's just so technologically focused these days, right? Like now we're on this, like, so many reps, and not to pick on LA when he asked us earlier, but everybody wants everything to be automated, right? They're like, I don't wanna have to do anything. I just want it to feed in and I want it to do all the stuff, right? I get it. I totally get it. Efficiency matters. I get it. But it's like, now we're like, let's just let AI do everything. Let's just have every single place you call be a bot when you answer, which again, I really dislike. Like the fact that I call places to get customer service and I'm talking to a stupid bot that's always like, I didn't understand your question. Please try again. You're like, oh, just give me a human, please, right? Exactly. Like, what is happening in the world? I don't want to live in a world where I'm talking to robots all the time. I just don't. So anyway, I think because that stuff is happening is why when you do anything that comes across as human, right, a little bit more of a human touch, they appreciate it. They notice it, right? So little things you can do. But let's talk about personalizing. This is important. Okay, so number one, online it says that usually conversion rates are 2 to 6 times higher when you use personalization in your marketing versus not using personalization in your marketing. So if you didn't have any other reason to do it other than that, there you go. Okay, human touch, stand out from the rest of the world. We just talked about that. Use their name for sure. So a couple things. In the CRM, be mindful of how you put their name in there. Since you're gonna export lists to create mailing lists, since you're gonna send out emails that will automatically fill in the name, hey, Will, right? You want their name to be correct, and you don't want it to be weird. So like I see some people's CRMs where it'll be like, the first name field will say like Joseph/Joe, because like it goes by Joe. But now every single thing you send out email-wise is going, hey, Joseph/Joe, right? Which isn't the worst thing in the world, but also not the best, right? And they do that sometimes with spouses too. They'll be like, hey, Josh/Amy, or something weird like that instead of just having it say like Josh and Amy, right? No one says, hey, Josh/Amy. That's just not normal. So like just make sure when you're putting stuff in the CRM that you're, write their name correctly and make it so that when it fills stuff in, it's gonna actually still look good. But use their name for sure. You should be using the merge fields. If you're sending out an email, think about all the emails you get from everywhere else you've ever bought stuff from. So whether that's like you're getting emails from Target, you're getting emails from Amazon, whatever it is, they almost never have your name in it, ever. It's just a blanket corporate email that goes out. You can totally tell. You're probably not even looking at them. Every day I open my inbox and I actually go through and just click all the emails I don't want to look at and delete them. And then I go back and do the emails I do want to look at. So all the stuff I get from all those places, I'm not even really looking at, but if I did, I'm sure it would not be personalized. It would just be whatever they're selling that day. It's obvious that it's not personal at all, okay? So have their name in there. The other thing I see happen a lot, this is super, super common. This is a really easy thing to change. When you guys write anything, if you're writing emails, you're writing a letter, you're writing a text, whatever. So first, use the first name merge field. But secondly, try really hard to write it as if you're talking to one person and not a group. People struggle with this because in your mind, you are sitting down and writing an email that you know is going out to all of your customers, or at least a group of customers for that event or that service area or whatever. And so I see that all the time. Even my team. I have a writer on my team who helps me now. Hired him last year, so glad I did. He's really great. Loved it. He worked at Disney for 20 years. It's the first time I've had somebody on my team who helps me with the writing. I used to do everything. Everything that was written by Vast Action was written by me for the first 9 years. It was a lot. But even Ken, who's a good writer, still he forgets. So he always writes the emails now, and then I go through and edit and change them when I need to. But even the other day, he had something in there that said like, for those of you who know, right? And then it went on. And so I always have to change it to, you might already know this, right? It's that kind of thing of don't write it to like, I love all of you. You're such a great, my customers are so great. You're all so great. I get it. But you have to be like, you are so amazing. So when I do it, I would say like, hey, Robert, because of you and the rest of my amazing customers, blank. If I'm going to talk about all my customers, that's how I talk about it, right? So try to write it like you're writing it to one person, not to a group of people, so that when they read it, they feel like you're talking to them, not to a group of people. Put your own personal updates in there sometimes. We usually do this in appreciation context. So like I said earlier, what do you want your brand to stand for? And just so you guys know, like one of the things we do at Vast Action that we've always done for Josh, and so I just do it for everybody, even though I didn't really ask if anybody wanted it, is I just put appreciation in everything. Every single thing we write and send out has something in it that's got appreciation in it. I think that's really important. I think it's really helped and been really good for us. Josh said it earlier, what you appreciate appreciates, right? So appreciate your customers, right? They're even more valuable. So when we put stuff in there for Josh, like if he goes on a trip and we take pictures and we put it in there, it's always like, thank you so much for your support because you helped me go on this trip. It's not just like, look at the trip I went on, right? When people send out, like I send out baby announcements for people a lot, just so you guys know, if any of you ever get pregnant, I always do a baby announcement for free. So if you send me all the baby info, I usually create the whole email for you with the pictures and all the stuff, born at this time, this weight, all that stuff, right? Always it says something in there like, thank you so much for your support because it helps support my family, whatever, something like that, right? It's always in the context of appreciation. Question?
After our Madrid trip, like, we just, like, individually, like, reach out to them, like, hey, some pictures of the
Absolutely. And anybody on our content knows that they can send us anything like that any month and we'll add it in at no charge. Question? So they vary. So with Vast Action, and I won't get into a ton of detail with this, I'll give you guys ranges, and anybody that wants more information, let me know, and I can send you pieces that have everything listed out, right? But all the emails are different prices based basically on how much effort it takes our team to make those emails, right? So our content emails, there's a few different levels because there's perks you can get at other levels. So they range from like $65 to $135, which by the way is still amazing because if you guys have never done any pricing of emails before, like our team writes all the emails and puts all the graphics together, but then we send it to a company who actually codes it all and makes it look great. Just that step costs me $500 every time, okay? So most places, if you're like paying somebody to write emails for you and do all the creation, they are generally hundreds at least, okay? We try to do the group pricing with you guys to bring it down for you guys and still make it something that makes sense for us to run a business. So they're great prices. Then the other emails will range. Like we have things from customer service templates that are like $40 or $49 up to custom emails that are like $250. And almost no one does custom emails for $250. There's usually some template we have that you can get between $100 and $200 and have it be whatever you want. So they vary, bless you. It's a good question. They do vary, but it just depends on the email. Okay. And that, by the way, counts multiple sends. So even when people buy sale emails from us, we're going in and actually making that email go out, launch, reminder, last chance, etc. There's no extra charge for that. We send it as many times as it needs to go. Event, emails, sales, that kind of stuff. Okay. Keep notes in your CRM because you want to be able to pick up the conversation where it left off. Josh mentioned this earlier, but again, when people come and cross-train with Josh, which if you guys haven't cross-trained ever, you should consider doing it because you learn a lot, really helpful. When people come, sometimes people come to our house. Sometimes they cross-train with him at events. Sometimes they actually just come to our house and sit and watch him make calls all day just to see how it works, what he says, how it goes, what are the approaches. And like the thing I usually always ask somebody when we're having dinner with them, we'll make them dinner. I ask them that night, I'll be like, so what'd you learn or what'd you notice? And the thing I hear the most is people that are like, I noticed that every single time Josh called someone, they picked up the phone, knew who Josh was, and then they went on to have a conversation right where they left off. So he could be like, oh, last time I talked to you was like 3 years ago, and you talked about this. How's that going? Like whatever it is, right? People appreciate it. Because like I said again, it's a whole different experience when they feel like you actually care about them as a human and not just about somebody who can buy Cutco from you, okay? So take notes. You just put it in your CRM, little notes that they give you, so you can ask the next time. If you have a conversation with them where they go, oh, I just got a promotion. The next time you talk to them, you should be like, hey, you got a promotion last time I talked to you. How's that going? Are you loving the new role? Whatever it is, right? Track stuff for them to make it a value add. Rapport. I noticed this about Josh too. I think when I was a rep, the mistake I made in my mind was when I reached out to people, I always had this mindset of like, I'm bugging them, I'm taking their time, so I'm gonna try and make this quick to not take up too much of their time. And so it was like business, just right into the business. But Josh, I watch him make calls and it's like, he'll call and he'll chit chat for a while, right? He's like, how's it going? Does that whole stuff of like, last time we talked this, how's your kid, whatever. And I'm just watching it's like there are people that will keep on the phone for a while talking about their lives. But then it eventually transitions into business. But I think because of that, and it might feel less efficient, but I think because of that and how human it feels, like an actual relationship, that's why the results are what they are, right? That's why he gets better results. So I think take that minute to just talk to them, right? Build rapport, take those notes, do that stuff. Be a person of your word, obviously. If you say you're going to do it, do it. It won't take very many times of you not doing that for them to lose interest. That's where we used to actually offer calling services on our team. We don't anymore. It was really hard to manage a lot of callers and all that stuff because it's just something crazy. It's emotional. Anyway, everybody wants lots of results. But there were people at that time that we used to make calls for that after calling enough times for them, we had to be like, I'm really sorry, but we're not making calls for you anymore, right? Because they had so many customers that were so mad. Like, because this person was just not providing service. They'd be like, I've asked him so many times for service, he's never called. Like, they were just always irked. So we were like, we just can't do this for you anymore, guys. Like, I'm like, if you change your business and you start servicing people and all that stuff, we will help you. But at this moment, we are no longer making calls for you. So it matters. And again, like I said, if that's you right now, it's fine. Just figure out a way to fix it. But just know that marketing, again, is not going to solve that problem. Okay? And then little things like greeting cards, birthdays, thank you cards, all that kind of stuff. And Josh has mentioned this many times too, but anytime we talk to a customer, whether it's courtesy call, we're texting with them, we're emailing them, anytime someone reaches back out, like we send out a sale and some people will be like, oh, I'd love to get stuff right now, but I just had surgery, right, whatever. They say all kinds of, because again, when they think you have a relationship, they tell you stuff, right? People tell us stuff all the time. So that's where no matter who on our team is talking to the customer, and whatever way they're talking to them, whatever they say, they get a task set of like send a card for that reason. Get well cards, sympathy cards, congratulation cards, birthday cards, anniversary cards, whatever it is. And people notice it. It's funny. Josh had a customer who was saying something to him like, I love buying expensive cars. I've had the same car guy for years. I have spent millions of dollars with my car guy, and he has never sent me anything. And then my knife guy sends me a birthday card every year. He's like, I should have been spending millions with you. And Josh's like, yes, you should have been spending millions. Okay, so people notice, right? Okay, this I'm just going to run through because I know we're probably like out of time, and I want to make sure you guys have questions. But I'm just going to put this up here if you want to take pictures. These are different ways you can segment your list. And the reason I'm bringing this up, and I won't just go through all those, but I do want to make this example. The whole personalization thing. Sometimes it's hard to personalize things because you don't have a ton of information on them, right? Cutco is very similar. They all own Cutco, right? Whatever. But here's what happens. So when we used to do catalog calls to every single customer. We used to hire like 4 full-time callers. They'd call for like 8 to 10 weeks in the fall, 40 hours a week. Man, it was an expensive process and a lot to manage. Once it got to a point where we're like, we just can't keep doing this. So we instead switched into the voice drops, right? So Josh calls us top customers, and then also we use voice drops, which is the pre-recorded ringless voicemail that just delivers to their phone like a missed call, and then it's voicemail. Now, the thing is, at first we were just sending that one voice drop out to everybody. But when you have a big enough list, it bogs down your phone for days, right? So like we learned quickly to split the list up and send out smaller drops over time so that his phone could still work for a couple of days. But then we realized after the first year that instead of just segmenting the list randomly, that we could actually segment it based on different things and then create a message that's more geared towards that segment. So like this last fall, by the way, for catalogs, we segmented all the people that got catalogs into lists that were like, here's the group of people who have given Cutco gifts, because we put a tag on their account anytime there's somebody who buys a Cutco gift for someone else. Because that way, if we ever want to do anything promoting gifts or whatever, or even appreciate those people, we have that tag easy to pull. So we had one list of people who gave gifts. We had one list of people who had wish lists on file. Another list of people who had like already ordered that year. Our list of people that were like business and realtor clients. So essentially, then when he's recording the message, instead of sending the same message out to every single person, he could actually say something like, hey, the last time we talked, you had put some wish list items on file, like whatever, right? We're running a sale right now. If you wanted to get a price quote, I'm happy to help with that, essentially, et cetera, right? Or you've given Cutco gifts in the past. Thank you so much for spreading the Cutco love in the world. Here's something special that's going on. It's just something that you can make it a little bit more personalized so it gets a little bit better results, right? Versus the same blanket statement for everybody. So these are all different ways you can segment lists, okay? What's really popular is last order date, and you should know, I will say this, any of you that do catalogs, right? Just so you know, and I've even talked to Steve Porzik about this recently because they also have their own algorithms they run. You guys should know that generally 80% of the orders from catalogs come from people whose last order date was in the last 5 years before they got that catalog. So yes, you can send them to everybody, which we did for a very long time. We used to send to every single person. But when you get to a point where if you're Curtis JQs, you have 20,000 people, Curtis is okay with it because he's fine with spending that money on 20,000 catalogs. But not everybody wants to spend that much. And knowing that 80% of your orders are going to come from the last 5 years, you can actually break your list down in certain ways and have it be more effective and for you cost-wise as well, right? Okay. And then again, there's the last slide of, what was the first slide? First slide, last slide. So that's where I'm going to stop. I'm a little over, but if you want to leave, I'm not insulted. If you want to ask questions, I will stick around and answer any questions.